Okay, we're all good? Okay, so we are IPTS Group 5A. I'm Hannah Fleming, and this is the rest of the cast, and we are going to discuss our PowerPoint today. So we're going to do a little bit about Meet the Group. I'm Hannah Fleming, and I am the ABSN nursing student here at SLU.
And then I can just introduce the rest of the team. So we have Madeline, she's from pharmacy, Jesse's from OT, and then Shruti and Judy are from medicine. Cameron's our physical therapist. My name's Terry and I'm in medicine. And then Hannah is from nursing and Brianna is also from nursing. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is radical belonging. So to come up with our definition of radical belonging, we looked at some literature reviews and some articles. So for example, the Seattle Times wrote a piece about a book called Radical Belonging by Dr. Lindo Bacon, and there's a picture of it up there. Sorry. So their definition was radical belonging is when we allow people in our lives and all of their glorious uniqueness, where we don't have these ideas that they need to be a certain way in order to meet up with our approval, and where we can recognize that humans also are quite fragile in the world. And then we also looked at a literature review called Toward Radical Belonging, Envisioning Anti-Racist Learning Communities. So they define this in 3 major areas, and that's shown in this image up here. It's social belonging, academic belonging, and democratic belonging. So socially, it's the extent to which people feel personally accepted, respected, included, and supported. And academically, it's envisioning a learning community that's responsive, collaborative, and without hierarchy. And for democracy, it's one that supports and expects its members to question the way things are and to work collaboratively for justice-oriented change. So together we came up with the definition for radical belonging is a non-judgmental atmosphere, one with acceptance, respect, and support from peers, and one where we're always striving to improve ourselves in the community. Next slide, please.
Okay, so having a sense of belonging is important in healthcare. First of all, because having the sense of belonging does help to combat burnout, which is very relevant given the effects of COVID-19 on healthcare workers. So in the case, we have Kadra, the family medicine physician, who didn't feel very comfortable sharing her beliefs with her healthcare team due to how opinionated some of the patients as well as some of her coworkers have been. And she was also showing signs of burnout, such as being late and being irritable. And for her, this lack of belonging likely contributed to her burnout or exacerbated the stress that was already there. For 2 other workers, we have Sarah and Andrea. Their stories did not specifically discuss their sense of belonging in detail. However, it's the stark lack of it that actually highlights how they don't really have strong work relationships or a safe workplace environment where they can discuss their concerns. And this then feeds back into the same situation with Kadra, where the lack of belonging is likely contributing to enhance the burnout. So the next reason that belonging is very important is that it allows members a safe space to voice their concerns and to collaborate to make improvements. In the case, we have Jessie, the aide, who feels closer to patients than with the team. And when micromanaged and faced with workplace discrimination, she didn't have anywhere to turn to raise her concerns. Had there been a stronger sense of belonging paired with a structured system for staff to bring up concerns, her experience could have helped her change her workplace away from one that just cared more about efficiency at the cost of providers making connections with patients. And the last reason is that a sense of belonging in healthcare helps to improve morale for all the staff members. In the case, we have Jonas, the environmental services worker. He felt underappreciated because he was underpaid and yet remained at his job despite another hospital offering higher wages. And this was because he not only enjoyed his work, but he did form a friendship with the patient, Marcus. And this connection with the patient helped to keep him encouraged and improved his morale overall, despite the other external factors at play. Next slide, please.
So a big thing with COVID-19 came about is that patient care needs to be more personal, especially as patients weren't allowed to have visitors in the hospital as readily as they were used to. And so in the case, we used the example of Jonas, who worked environmental services, and then Jesse, the aide. Jonas felt very undervalued at his current hospital, despite all the extra services he was providing, like visiting patients, even though it wasn't necessarily part of his job, as well as standing in as a translator for patients when one wasn't readily available. And Jessie, as an aide, also faced a lot of backlash from her supervisor over her relationships with patients being very unprofessional. She feels like her closeness with patients is what allows her to better provide them care. And so it needs to be more readily available for healthcare providers to provide this kind of closeness, especially in a pandemic. And close patient relationships allow us to provide the better care because it increases opportunities for us to help with mental health rather than just physical health and illness. And this has created a lot of unique situations for healthcare providers to kind of force us into this uncharted territory. And it's been putting a lot of emphasis on patient worker relationships rather than just working to fix the illness and not the overall well-being of a patient. And each member of the healthcare team has differences that makes the team overall stronger. And so this is seen through Sarah as the nurse, Kadra as the family medicine physician, and Jessie as the aide again. So Sarah comes to work despite having to leave her child at home sick, as we see in the case. Because she is a single mother, this typically makes her late to meetings, usually about 10 minutes late. And so as being a part of the healthcare team as the leader, you may want to move those meetings back about 10 minutes or so. That allows to give her some extra time so she's not rushing in late and then you're not having to reiterate everything that's already been discussed for her. And her experiences as a single mother can also allow her to better connect with similar patients, and it makes them feel safer overall. But if she's continually berated for rushing into work late, then she won't have this opportunity and she'll be less likely to put forth the effort at work. And Kadra feels unsafe sharing opinions with her team due to their anger and their political beliefs in the current climate. And cultural support is needed much more in practice and less in educational trainings. So a lot of times healthcare professionals go through cultural trainings, and then once we get out into the work environment, we don't always feel readily like we can use them right off the bat. We need to have more in-person training and be able to experience it and be in those situations. And so that's a way to combat how Kadra is feeling. She's very frightened, and a lot of her coworkers are very insensitive because they've never been exposed to someone like her. And so allowing these opportunities for all healthcare providers would greatly benefit the team. And Jessie feels a little bit similar to Kadra because she's scared to say the wrong thing at any given time just because she is different than most of her white coworkers. And so once again, supporting these cultural differences allows them to influence some of the healthcare decisions and also allows us to be closer to our patients and get that real deep personal connection. Next slide, please.
So the other thing that our team wanted to address was how our interventions would help consider the inequitable impact of COVID-19 on marginalized communities. And so COVID-19 is a health crisis that no one could have ever imagined happening. It was something that we were not prepared for as a healthcare system. And when the pandemic struck, healthcare providers across the nation had to forego evidence-based medicine and implement new plans and ideas immediately based on just educated guesses. Although this was necessary to do, it came with many problems, and some of these were discussed in the case, and Judy and Madeline kind of touched on them. Given the uncertainty that COVID-19 brought, our team proposes having serial team meetings with all healthcare staff that promote conversation about COVID-19 and how everyone is handling it on a personal level, and if there's anything that can be done to help other members of the team or improve patient care as a whole. We believe that this would be a space that allows everyone to share their ideas freely without judgment. Essentially, it would also allow the interpersonal team to bounce ideas off of each other and build on each other's thoughts to provide a better working space for them and higher quality care for patients impacted by COVID-19. Like Madeline and Judy had already touched on, examples of the case would be if Kadra was given the space to freely share her thoughts without the fear of anger and others' political beliefs. As a doctor, she might be able to communicate that she feels mentally taxed and could ask for help from other team members such as Sarah the nurse or Jessie the aide, or even offer her own new ideas to decrease burdens and work more efficiently. Sharing her thoughts may also allow her to ease her mind and have a better mental capacity to take on the heavy course load. And in the same way, if Sarah, the nurse, was able to have the space to openly share her difficult family situation with the expectation that her supervisor would be sensitive and understanding, it might also provide her with more mental ease and allow her to improve her quality of work. This could be said about all of the rest of the team members in the case. The point being that if all the members in the healthcare team were able to share their burdens with others and openly discuss their thoughts, it would provide a lot of ease amongst the team members. And when healthcare workers are unable to have a place to release their anxiety and stress, this eventually builds up and has a potential to be released in inappropriate manners. This could easily be avoided by having these open discussions with each other, which would also help to foster a support system amongst the rest of the healthcare team and allow them to lean on each other while fighting COVID-19 together, ultimately leading to better quality of healthcare. A key point takeaway from this is you might, like, all the healthcare workers must have a full glass in order to help fill others. Next slide.
Okay, so throughout what they were saying, we have some key implementations that we can do. So one of them would be automatically starting with a clear time and clear goal of the meeting. I and a few other people have seen where all the members of a team have met around lunchtime. That gives all the opportunities for each member in their own team to show up to work, be on time, meet with their patients, and then not have to worry about missing a meeting. So setting a clear time and goal would be important as it prevents from any failures. Also, too, doing daily reviews within these, this allows them to express how they feel. It gives that safe environment. They can express how they're feeling. It gives that open communication while also allowing everybody to have acknowledgement of different cultures. And also, too, implementing a shout out system. I experienced this at Barnes, and within the interprofessional team that I worked with, we all together was able to shout out different team members that we saw step forward and do something, and then also gave an opportunity for someone to express at the same time, like, hey, thanks so much for helping me when I was behind, or when patient so and so need me, you were also there. So it just helped gave this total teamwork together while setting a clear goal, clear time, and kind of made it just an open, free environment where everybody can communicate. All these ideas can be used within short or long-term roadmap. They could be like a short-term, like, start with a clear time. Over time, you don't need the time, you don't need a short system. It could be a long-term system. So it kind of just based off of how it is. And each person can implement these based on these goals. And together as a team, it would be much appreciated. And together, everybody will support it because all members will be able to feel welcome, valued, and all their cultures would be accepted.
So to look at the progress and success of our interventions, we came up with a few metrics of success we can use to measure. The first one is the perceived stress scale. This is a scale that was created in 1983, and it's still very popular for having a better understanding of the effects different situations can cause people and how it affects their stress. These questions ask different things about feelings and thoughts during the last month. So it would be probably good to use as a tool for setting it up, looking at like the last month, which would be before these interventions have been implemented, and then following up about a month after the interventions have been implemented to see how stress has changed throughout the workers. Some questions as examples are, in the past month, have you been upset because of something unexpectedly happening? Have you felt nervous or stressed? Could you not cope with all the things that you have to do? Have you felt difficulties were piling up so high that you could not overcome them? And so all the questions focus on feelings and situations that are causing you to be stressed out and the effects of that. This scale is a 0 to 40 scale, with a 0 to 13 meaning low stress, 14 to 26 is a high moderate stress, and then 27 to 40 is a high stress. So I think at the beginning, there's a good chance most people will be in the high stress area. And with our interventions being implemented, we would hopefully get them down to the moderate range and even possibly the low stress range. The second thing we decided to look at was the rate of turnover. And obviously, hopefully we see a decrease in this number after interventions are implemented. During COVID and following that time where numbers just kept skyrocketing and people were being overworked, I could assume that turnover was not super high. People were leaving the industry. And I know personally a few like nurses who finally just like could not take it anymore. So they left nursing and do something completely different now. So we can assess this rate that occurred post-COVID when it was in its highest during like 2020, where cases were increasing rapidly. And then we can also compare it to after interventions are implemented. Next slide, please.
Okay, so sustainability, system sustainability is just one pillar of sustainability within healthcare, and it includes the patient, the providers and staff, the organization, and the operations. And having open communication and providing support can create a safe space and provide a sense of belongingness, which in turn can have long-term benefits, such as decrease in stress, turnover, and burnout. The metrics of success that we just mentioned can be used to show how well the interventions are working and determine if anything needs to be changed. And once the ideas have been implemented and are successful, it can be shared and used in other settings and organizations. So if we implemented our key interventions and used the metrics of success to measure how well the interventions are working, we would be able to see if the ideas are sustainable and scalable. If our ideas were successful, we would see a difference at mHealth, Fairview, and its employees, and that can be used in other settings and organizations to help them improve their work environments and attitudes about work. So in this case, Jonas would feel more valued and appreciated, Sarah would feel more included, and Kadra would feel more culturally supported. And this would create a better and happier work environment for all the employees. If other organizations saw the decrease in stress levels, staff retention, and decrease in turnover at mHealth, they would be interested in using these ideas in their organization to also see an improvement. Next slide, please.
This case taught us how teamwork is essential in both creating this presentation as well as for how each of our healthcare professions can work together in the case. Open communication with one another is an essential aspect of working on a team, as we talked about before. And talking about radical belonging either taught us or reminded us that we each have our own sense of belonging on the healthcare team. And each of us has our own unique skill sets, which is beneficial to delegate responsibilities and what falls into the scope of each profession. And if they are in common, that we could potentially co-treat. Communication is also key in regards to safety considerations to make sure that everyone is always on the same page. And sharing the view of the case from our own profession is very beneficial to team discussions. And it's unique to consider areas that are not your own area of knowledge. And there is some overlap in the skills, which becomes beneficial to tying everything together when discussing potential discharge of a patient or client. We really enjoyed working on this case together as a team, and we hope that you enjoyed hearing about it.